Hey everyone, Will Hankey here from Red Canoe Media. Thanks for joining us today. Really excited about today's guest. Her name is Cathy Sexton. Cathy, I've known Cathy for quite a while now, and she does some great things along the lines of helping people with their productivity and getting more done in a certain amount of time, which is always a good thing. Cathy is a productivity expert, author, speaker, radio host, and power habits coach. She ignites your productivity and accelerates results by leveraging your natural productivity style. Despite her constant experimentation with new technologies, Cathy's current favorite productivity tool is using multiple monitors and remains grateful to whoever invented luggage on wheels. Cathy, thanks for coming along with us.
Well, I'm glad to be here, Will. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, no problem. I really like your intro about the dual monitors. As you know, I got dual monitors last year for Christmas, and man, what a great tool that is.
Well, you know, when I first seen people using it, I thought, why would I do that? That's just more craziness, you know. But
Right.
once I started, it's hard when I use my laptop alone because I'm so used to having the double monitors that it makes it hard to just go back to one.
Yeah, it's a great thing. I mean, I can't imagine not having two anymore. It's
Right.
I can get a lot done. So
It's kind of like the microwave, you know. When we didn't have it, we didn't know what we were missing. But once we have it, now what will we do without it?
Yeah, exactly. So tell me first about your radio show. I know that you do a radio show, and tell me a little bit more about that.
Okay, I'm on, it's an internet radio show called Amazing Women of Power. The radio network is on 24 hours, but my show is on Thursday mornings at 9:30 Central Time. And most of the time I'm interviewing guests like you're doing today, and it is based around, you know, being more productive in some way or manner. It might be writing a book. It might be if you're trying to take on speaking engagements. So it's not necessarily time management type of productivity, but different ways that it affects us in our personal and professional lives. The audience is usually small business owners to working professionals.
Okay, and I'll put a link in the show notes on how you can get to that, but I'm assuming that if they can't listen to it live, there's a podcast version of it or something that people can download as well?
There are some podcast versions are on my membership site, so there's a couple free ones there, and they can listen to them there.
Okay, and that's through the productivityexperts.com?
Or igniteyourproductivityradio.com.
Oh, awesome. Okay. And also along the lines of the radio show, you've also done some pretty cool speaking engagements. Tell us about those.
So I have got to, one of those, I guess the most exciting that I got was when I got a call from the Cathys Foundation, which is Steve Cathys, who started AOL.
Yeah, nice.
Not that I got to meet him, but I got to go up and work with a team of his members for his foundation and do some time management in Washington, D.C. So that was pretty exciting. Last May, I got to go down and speak at a conference for the IDA, which is the International Dealers Association, so Door Dealers Association. And just on Sunday, I got to speak to the state of Missouri clerks. So all the clerks in the state of Missouri, all the city clerks came to town, and they were here in St. Charles, and I got to speak a whole day to them, so working on their productivity and things like that. So it's been very exciting to meet so many different people and in so many different areas because productivity affects us all.
Yeah. So that sounds awesome. What do you typically share with them? I mean, you don't have to give me specifics, but do you target a specific area like email or, like you said, time management, or do you kind of go depending on what they prefer to listen about?
Well, usually I try and find out what their pains are. So it might be, and generally people say, I want time management, but when I start talking to them, it's either more email or interruptions, things like that. So more and more often people are having me speak on my Ignite performance, which is basically stands for inner insight, which really understanding who we are and understand what's going on in our subconscious mind and how that affects our productivity. About getting organized, it's about interruptions, it's about our natural productivity style, taking action, time management type things, and then email. So that kind of gives them a little bit of all of them, or I can just talk to them about one specific thing. And I usually really customize based on what their needs are.
Okay, so let's switch gears a little bit towards a small business owner. If they were to engage you, how could you help a small business owner?
So I generally, on my small business owners, I do one of two things. One, I would be on premise and help them look at their systems and processes, and put some systems and processes to make things easier. As simple as creating checklists, as creating a process that everybody does it and follows it the same way. It makes everybody's life easier. To just doing coaching, which can be in person or on the phone. But small business owners are wearing so many hats. They have so many things going on that they sometimes just need that accountability and that need to help them stay in a direction instead of going off in a lot of different directions.
That's awesome. I know that we've talked before about the Work the System book and about having processes in place, and I can't tell you how great it is for myself that I have an intern that works with me, and if we're going to do something new, I'll tell her, okay, open up a Word doc. We're going to go through all these steps, and you're going to type them in so that the next time we come back, we've got 80% of it in place.
That's exactly right, because that's what I'll tell people. It's that if you don't have them built, that's the best way to do it. You're training somebody new or you're creating a new one. But even when we have processes in place and they aren't documented, by having somebody that you're training write it, you review it, and then they follow it step by step, that's the best way to get all the details in.
Yeah, and then next time, this intern may be around for a year or two, and then she may go on, and I have somebody else come in. Now I don't have to retrain the entire process.
Correct. And you not only get that, so you save time there, you save time training, you get consistency. So, we all tend to want to do things differently, but there's some things need to be done consistently the same way by everybody. And it makes it consistent for your customers, it consistent in just being able to get things accomplished.
Yeah, definitely. For a long time I ran my business in my head, and I'd get a new client, and I had a list of things in my head, but that list would usually change sometimes because I forgot steps or forgot things, and documenting all those is a terrific way to, even just like a checklist of things that need to be done is a great way to start something off.
Correct, and you're right about having it in your head. So I tell people you can't prioritize and you can't organize when it's in your head. It's got to be out of your head and in some kind of a system, if it's electronic or paper or whatever. But you have to be able to prioritize it, or else we do all the stuff we like to do and not the stuff we need to do.
Yeah, that's definitely true. So what kind of things get you going, in the morning? What's the first thing you do when you get into your office? How does your day typically start?
Well, I really recommend that people know at the end of their day, so at the end of the day that they're planning what they need to work on tomorrow, and to pick those top 3 things that you want to accomplish today. And start on the very top one, and do not open your email, do not listen to your voice messages, and wait until you've got a good hour or so, half hour into that big project you need, and then look at your email, maybe mid-morning, maybe before or after lunch, and then late in the afternoon. Most of us, our businesses are not driven by email, so we can, and if we let people know, I check my email 3 or 4 times a day, then they know not to expect a quick response, or they know they need to call you if it's really something important.
Right. I think even Tim Ferriss mentioned that in the 4-Hour Work Week about, he did a little drastically and said I check my email once a week or something like that. Right. Boy, that's a tough one. I mean, it's probably one of the first things I do is check my email in the morning.
Right. And so if you're going to do that, so what I recommend people do, my clients do, is to schedule it on their calendar just like they do a meeting. So then they'll get a pop-up to remind them, okay, you got to go check email now. It's, 10 o'clock, 10:30, whatever. And the deal with that is it's not about just looking at the email. It's about processing the email. So we sometimes look at an email 3, 4, 5 times before we ever do anything with it.
Yes.
So, and so the best thing to do is to schedule that time, half hour, 45 minutes, whatever that looks like for you, and actually work on the email when you're there and process them.
That makes sense. Yeah. That's really good. I use Google Calendar, and I'm sure you have other favorites that you use for kind of the scheduling part of it. But I typically set out hour blocks or 2-hour blocks for each client that I'm working on, and so the email thing would actually fit right into that. It's just building that habit might be a bit difficult.
Correct. It's about building habits. Another thing that really works a lot of times for people is to color code those calendars. So that when you're looking at your calendar, like when I'm working with a client, it's green. So I know that's money that it's going to be coming in the door. And then, meetings are one color, other things, personal is another color. So I can easily look at my calendar for the week and say, hey, where's my time going? Is it going in the right direction? Or am I getting caught up doing a lot of things I should probably not be doing?
Oh, that's great. What about things that business owners might be doing wrong right now? What's probably one of the biggest things you see them doing wrong?
Not delegating.
Okay.
You mean for a lot of reasons. One is because they feel like they're the only ones that can do it right.
Sure.
And a lot of times, just like on Sunday when I spoke, at the end, one of the ladies came up to me. She goes, I want to thank you for telling me how to delegate. Everybody's told me all these years to delegate, but they never told me how to do it. So the biggest key when you're delegating is that should be the first question you're asking yourself when you're looking at paper coming across your desk or you're looking at an email. Can I discard it first? The second is, can I delegate it? And so when you're looking at delegating, always put a timeline on your delegation, even the minor tasks, because otherwise they just get lost in the shuffle. You can say, hey, this has got a variable time element on it, but always give them a time element, and always have them recite back to you what they think you said.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
We know in our head what we want. We can see that visual, end point, but we have to be saying it to them in the language that they understand. So my analogy of that is if I give you a jigsaw puzzle and I don't give you the top of the box, it's going to be much harder. Some people would be a challenge, but they'd love it, but most of us would say, oh, wow, I don't want to do that. So it's kind of giving them the top of the box so they know what that end product looks like. Have them relay it back to you so that the language, so that they understood you the same way. And then also schedule some, especially if it's a big project, some times that you're going to check in with them on how it's going and if they need help.
Okay. And does that change whether it's a retail establishment versus, say, a business that works purely virtual?
No, I don't think it really does.
Okay. And are there any tools that you use to maybe help delegate or set up reminders or things like that? What kind of tools do you use for that?
So for the reminders, so let's go back to when you're talking about virtual or like in-house. One thing that I use a lot for virtual is I use Basecamp, which I know you use.
Yes,
but that's a great way for me to put them to put their, when I work with interns, they put their to-dos out there, and then if they need me to do something, they create a to-do for me. If they're ready for me to review something like that. And then also using Skype. I use Skype a lot, so virtual. And then for tools for following up is I use what I call, it's a tickler file system. So it's a 1 through 31 and a January through December. So if I've given somebody a project that's due on the 30th, I might put a note in there to check with them on the 20th. Where is it? So
Okay.
I don't have to keep in my mind, oh yeah, I got to check with Jane because she's working on XYZ project. I've got something that's going to trigger that for me.
Interesting. Okay. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of interesting. Let me ask you this: give me 3 tips that business owners can use today to start helping their productivity move in the right direction?
Okay, so the first thing is, and I kind of mentioned it, at the end of the day, we're already in work mode. So if you're going to stay working another hour, you know what you're going to work on. So that's the time to plan tomorrow. So we're looking at tomorrow, we know what those, and then, you know, it's those top 3 things that you need to accomplish tomorrow, so that when we come in the next day, we already know what to start working on. We don't have to rethink through our day. What was I doing yesterday? What's going on today? You've already determined that.
Yeah,
So
I think that's a great tip.
And then having only one project on your desk at a time. And I know that we tend to, you know, have piles and things like that. But there's the saying is out of sight, out of mind. So we kind of keep it in our space, but inside in mind. So when you lay something on your desk and you say, hey, I'm going to do this later, our subconscious mind doesn't know later today, later next week, later next month, and you have a pile of laters. So your mind's constantly trying to remind you. So put those piles to the side or behind you and only work on one project so that when you get interrupted, you go right back to that project versus picking up something else and working on that. And then we kind of talked about earlier, but having systems, if you can build systems with everything you can do, when we think about anything we do well, where there's a system behind it. And I know you canoe and things like that, but you know, you go fishing, there's certain things you need to do to get the right income, right? The outcome, I mean, the right outcome. Yeah. You know, sure. If you're going to cook a gourmet meal, you have to do things in certain processes. So when we look at that, and really in a long term, that saves us so much time. Yeah. Even the people that are very creative and aren't really process oriented, if they create process around the things that have to happen, that will create more time for them to be creative.
Yeah, and do you know, I mentioned earlier about processes. Do you think just pulling up a Word doc and starting to document them, is that a great way to do it, or do you have a tool that you use, or what do you think is the best way?
I think that's if you're to get it done, that's the best way to do it. I do have a form that, you know, if there are more than just 1 or 2 of you in the office, I would recommend that you create a form that says who's responsible for this, and it's not the person, it's the position. You know, okay. And how often you do it, and it'll just give you a little bit added information, and then everything's consistent, so all your procedures are done on the same type of a template and the same process.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's talk about after hours. After hours for me is 10 o'clock at night, and by that I mean I'm always checking my email. Always checking to see what's going on with anything, and if somebody contacts me at 8 or 9 at night, it's likely that I'll reply to them at 8 or 9 at night. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, you know, it really, for some of us, you know, we're maybe evening people or late night people, we're not morning people, so those people tend to work. I mean, I really don't have objection to people working at night. My whole thing is making sure that you're giving your family quality time and you're giving yourself a break and not working 24/7, you know, and staying up. Now, the biggest problem with what you do is we teach what we allow. So if we allow and we answer phone calls at 8 o'clock or on the weekends, people are going to call us at 8 o'clock or on the weekends because they know you're always available. Another thing that you can do in most email programs is you can reply, but you can change and have it sent like the next morning. And they don't need to know you're up at 3 o'clock in the morning, you know, answering emails. But I think it's more about understanding who you are, when you can get your best time done, and sometimes we as small business owners need to work late at night just to get things caught up, you
Right.
know. So I don't think that's a problem, but the biggest key is, and coming from a reforming workaholic, so important to keep, you know, family time, and that you get that relaxation time, and that you aren't working constantly all the time, because you need to be able to revise yourself.
Right. I've heard somebody say, I think it's Dale Furtwängler says, you know, when two people are interacting, one of them is always teaching the other one how to act.
Right. Correct.
Yeah. So, yeah, me answering the phone at 8 o'clock at night or something, you're right. I'm teaching them that it's okay to call then.
Right. Right.
So, along those lines, how should we handle emergencies? Say, you know, in my case, a server goes down, or maybe it's an emergency in the client's mind, but in reality it's not. How should we handle those?
Well, I think it's, you know, that you do set up a process for that type thing. And maybe it is you have them email you and put you know, the priority flag on it, or that they text you, and, you know, and that you monitor things, but, you know, and because in your position, you're right. If somebody's server goes down, that's critical, you know.
Sure.
And you know, and it really depends on what kind of service. Are you a 24-hour service, you know, or are you, you know, 8 to 5? I'll deal with it, you know. Send it to me, but I'll deal with it at 8 o'clock in the morning, you know.
Yeah.
So it really depends on the business.
That makes sense. So what's one thing that people don't know about you?
What's one thing that people don't know about me? Most people don't know that I'm a one sibling of 7.
Oh, wow.
So I grew up here in St. Louis, and I have 5 sisters and 1 brother. So a lot of people don't know that, and a lot of people don't know that I'm a quilter. So,
And you have a cat.
And I think my cat just decided to come and join us. For some reason, when I'm on Skype or this type of thing, she's usually pops in.
That's all right. Cats are big in the internet, so that should increase the overall viewership, I would think.
Yeah, right.
So tell me, how can small business owners get in contact with you?
Well, they can visit my website at theproductivityexperts.com. They can email me at Cathy with a C, so CATHY, at theproductivityexperts.com. My membership site, or check out the radio station, is Ignite Your Productivity Radio. And, you know, call me at 314-267-3969.
Okay, awesome. Tell me a little bit more about the membership site. What's behind the scenes on that?
Okay, behind the scenes is basically over 100 actually, I don't want to call them coaching programs, but kind of like a coaching program, or articles and things just to help us not only in productivity, which there's a lot more in productivity than anything else, but leadership, health. It's just to be self-improvement, self-development. So people who are really into self-development, it really gives them a lot of things. All of the my radio show archives are there, so they have access to them, and we're in the process of transcribing them so they can have it either audio or transcribed.
Nice.
And
okay.
I'm getting ready to launch a really big program that's going to be part of the membership site, and so with that program they'll have access to the whole membership site.
Oh, okay. You'll have to let me know about that when it goes live. Okay. Tell me about a couple of the current projects you're working on.
So the one big project I'm working on right now is I'm taking my coaching and I'm creating an actual online coaching program. So people who don't feel like they can afford to, you know, work with me on a one-to-one, you know, basis, or want to try out a little bit of coaching, it's going to be an 8-week program. They'll have homework and exercises to do, but they'll also be able to they'll get a couple one-on-ones with me during the process. They'll also get group calls, so you'll be able to, hear what other people's issues are and where they're struggling that might affect you or you might help down the road. So I'm really excited that I'm taking what I help so many individuals with and that I'm going to be able to help and share with so many more people.
Oh, that's awesome. When do you think that part is going to launch?
I hope to have it up and running by November.
Okay.
December, at the end of the year, the latest, but November is my goal at this point.
Okay. And is that going to be a short window of time where people can take advantage of that, or you said it was an 8-week course? Is there a hard start and stop date on that?
No, there is not. So that's the cool thing about it. Anybody can start at any point in time. So when they're involved in the calls, they'll be able to hear people that have been maybe down the road, and they'll get advantage of that. Another thing is that when I launch it, I'll be launching it as a pilot program first. So those people who might be interested in it, if they let me know, they'll get a deep, deep discount because I'm going to launch it as a pilot first and then, really roll it out after that.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great way to work the kinks out and everything. And the early adopters get a significant discount.
Yes, yes.
Oh, that's terrific. Well, Cathy, I really appreciate you spending some time with me today. I always learn some great tips from you, and I really appreciate your time.
Well, thank you very much, and I'll come back anytime.
All right. Thank you. My name's Will Hankey with Red Canoe Media, and really appreciate you joining us today on Navigate the Rapids, and we'll see you next week.